I am an accidental diplomat. So I'm gaining a lot of weight here. 아이고.
Bonjour, 최정화의 랑데부입니다. 오늘은요, 제가 여러분들이 여름에 많이 휴가를 가는 그 필리핀 대사님과 함께 하는데요. 여러분들 필리핀 하면은 뜨거운 태양, 또 정말 아주 맛있는 그 과일, 또 아름다운 휴양지 생각나는 게 많죠? 그래서 대사님하고 많은 얘기를 나눠보도록 하겠습니다. 안녕하세요, 대사님.
안녕하세요. 마부하이.
마부하이.
마부하이. It's like 안녕하세요.
마부하이. 안녕하십니까? 대사님, 본인 소개 부탁드립니다.
안녕하세요. 저는 필리핀 대사 Theresa Vega입니다.
대사님, 한국에는 언제 오셨고요? 또 이전에서 계시던 이전 부임지는 어딘지 궁금해요. 네.
I arrived in Korea the last few days of July of 2021, so last year. Before coming to Korea, I was Philippine 대사 in 독일.
와.
Germany.
네,
Berlin.
Germany. 제가 듣기에 대사님 남편도 대사라고 들었는데요. 어느 나라에서 대사인지 굉장히 궁금하거든요.
My husband is currently the Philippine Ambassador to Belgium.
Belgium.
And also in a non-resident capacity to Luxembourg. And he also represents the Philippines with the European Union or the EU.
제가 듣기에 대사님께서 외교관이 되시기 전에 영문학 교수인 걸로 제가 알고 있거든요. 그래서 어떠한 계기로 외교관이 되셨는지 굉장히 궁금합니다.
I actually started my professional career just barely 2 months after graduation from university.
Wow.
And my first real job, my first real profession was in the academic world.
Yes.
I was an instructor and lecturer at the University of the Philippines where I graduated from. I always tell friends and colleagues when they ask me how I became a diplomat, and I always say I am an accidental diplomat because I was not really planning for a career in diplomacy. I was hoping to continue with an academic career, but we have a good friend of the family, close friend of the family, who was one of our first women career diplomats. And she asked me, why don't you take the competitive examinations? So, to please my family friend, who is an old dear friend of my mother and my grandmother, I took the competitive exam. And when I passed the exam, I thought maybe I will try it for a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 1 foreign posting, and then I will decide. But I ended up staying now for 28 years.
대사님이 생각하시는 아주 중요한 외교관으로서의 자질은 뭔지 말씀 좀 해주세요. 네.
I think a diplomat should always look for potential and possibilities. Nothing is impossible in diplomacy. They say diplomacy is the art of the possible. The other is you have to pay attention to details. You have to be, aside from being a very good articulator, you have to be a good listener and a good observer.
독일에 이제 대사로 계셨었잖아요. 그리고 이제 지금은 한국의 대사님이신데요. 그 독일하고 한국하고 많은 문화의 차이가 있을 거라고 또 생각을 하고요.
Korea, as soon as I landed, I could feel this energy, this great energy in Seoul. I arrived in the middle of the pandemic.
Yes, so it was still very dynamic.
But there was still, there was this feeling, this vibe, as the younger people would like to say, of dynamism, of movement, of constantly moving. So I had that very, very strong impression. Here in Korea, especially in Seoul, the pace was a bit more pali-pali, a little faster. The things have to proceed at a very fast pace. I actually like the pace. I'm not intimidated by the fast pace. Speedy. I actually like it.
그 처음에 도착했을 때랑 지금이랑 한국에 대한 어떤 이미지가 좀 달라진 게 있는지 궁금해요.
I think the fast pace, the dynamism has not really changed. It has actually increased. But
Okay.
as the months go on, I am learning, and as I meet more Koreans,
Yes.
both in an official capacity and also on a more personal level, there's a deeper appreciation
Of Korea.
of Korea, of the Korean people, of the history and the culture and the traditions, which I think is very important
Yeah, I
for
think so.
all, for not just for diplomats, but for everyone who goes outside of their own country to experience another culture, another country.
대사님은 그 케이팝이라든가 삼겹살이라든가 그죠? 한류 이런 거에 대해서 정말 사랑하는 우리 한류의 팬이신데요. 이런 한국 문화를 어떻게 처음 접한 어떤 기회가 어떤 거였는지.
Actually, aside from the lessons and textbooks in world history and Asian history that you learn when you're in grade school or middle school, high school, my first more serious introduction and interest in Korea was through an old book which was published in 1988 called Korea, written by a New York Times best-selling author and journalist, Simon Winchester.
Oh, yeah, Simon.
Simon Winchester. And he actually walked from one end of the peninsula, from one end of Korea to I think from Jeju. He started from Jeju in the south up to very close to the border with North Korea in the Korean peninsula.
Okay.
So in order to really get to know more about the country and the people, his goal was to try the route used by Hendrik Hamel and the other Dutch sailors from Europe who were among the first to land in Korea. And of course, Hendrik Hamel is very well known in this country for being perhaps the first Westerner to write and to tell Europe and the rest of the world about Korea.
Okay, and then I'd like to give this book, K-Style.
K-Style.
Yes, it's about living the Korean way of life. So,
감사합니다, 정말.
yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. I will treasure this. Thank you so much.
서울 외에 어떻게 다른 지방이나 지역에도 좀 가보셨는지요? 그리고 그 중에서 특히 어느 지역이 인상적이었는지 궁금하거든요. 네.
I've been able to go to, I would think quite a number of places already. I have been to Busan. Busan 3 times already.
3 times already?
Yes, all on official missions. Recently I was in Jeju. And I've been to Suwon.
Wow.
Pyeongtaek.
Pyeongtaek also.
Cheonnan. And of course, a little closer to Seoul, to Incheon, to Paju.
What was the most memorable place for you?
Perhaps Jeju, because of the natural scenery, the many UNESCO heritage sites. There, it was truly an experience. I was there for a meeting, but I had a very, very brief opportunity to see a little of the.
대사님, 우리 남편이 필리핀에서 근무를 했었기 때문에 3년이나 했어서 제가 좀 자주 갔었는데요. 정말 저는 필리핀 우선 날씨도 너무 좋고, 그리고 제가 굉장히 과일을 좋아하는데 가서 맨날 망고도 먹었고요. 그리고 제가 할 줄 아는 스포츠가 오로지 수영인데 늘 언제나 가도 수영할 수가 있어서 굉장히 필리핀을 좋아하는데 특히 팔라완을 자주 갔었거든요. 대사님은 어디를 추천하고 싶은지 대사님 알려주세요 주세요.
Palauan is beautiful. 예쁘다.
예뻐요.
예뻐요. Palawan.
정말 예뻐요.
Yes. Coron in Palawan is a beautiful place. El Nido, of course. The natural beauty, untouched. Really, I would also recommend to our Korean friends to try Bohol. To visit Bohol. It's not as well known as Boracay or Palawan or Cebu or Clark or Manila, but for our Korean friends who would like to see very unique natural attractions like the chocolate hills.
The
Chocolate hills, because there are many hills.
Okay.
So they look like chocolates, like chocolate candy.
I never been there.
From a distance. So,
is it far from Manila?
It about the same distance as Cebu.
Okay,
and there is an
good.
international airport. And aside from the natural attractions, it's also very rich in cultural history.
Okay.
There are many churches dating back to the Spanish colonial period which are still standing. Some of them made out of seashells.
Seashells.
Because Bohol is another beautiful place by the sea. And these churches are also heritage sites.
Okay.
So many things to experience in Bohol. And of course, anywhere in the Philippines, the music, the culture, the food, the cuisine is an experience unto itself.
한국 음식은 어떤 거 좋아하는지 좀 궁금하거든요. 말씀해 주세요.
Korean food, Hansik, I also love. I am particularly fond of bulgogi.
불고기.
Bulgogi, bibimbap.
비빔밥.
Of course, in the Philippines, samgyeopsal is very, very popular.
Yes.
In fact, where I live in Manila, there are at least 3 samgyeopsal restaurants, all within walking distance
Okay.
of where I stay. So I'm able to eat Korean food regularly. But I am also very, very fond of hotok.
호떡.
And I have tried the Busan hotok.
부산 호떡.
The special, different hotok. So I'm getting addicted to hotok.
Okay.
So I'm gaining a lot of weight here in Seoul.
Okay, yeah. So, I didn't know that there is a special hot dog in Busan. So
Yes.
next time I will go.
Yes,
and
yes, yes,
Please
you
give
should.
me the address, okay?
Yes, I will. But I have to warn you, there's always a long line.
Okay.
There's always a long line. But I learned that in Korea, when you see a long line of Koreans waiting to enter a restaurant or to buy food, then it must be good.
그 필리핀 사람들은 한국 했을 때 어떤 이미지를 떠올리는지 많이 궁금하거든요. 네.
So many things.
So, for example,
number one, K-pop.
K-pop,
of course, especially the younger generation.
BTS?
They like BTS is very popular. Blackpink.
Blackpink.
And also some of the more senior acts. They call the second generation K-pop. Girls' Generation.
Yes.
Rain is also very
Rain.
popular.
I like Rain. Yeah.
Rain, who is also an actor. And Psy, of course.
Psy, yeah.
K-drama and K-films also very popular.
Okay, films. So, Squid Game, did you watch that?
I watched Squid Games. I watched it, found it very interesting. Very interesting. I do try to watch as many K-dramas as I can. You know, Squid Games, for example, DP is also a favorite. Very well done.
And Mr. Sunshine, did you watch?
Mr. Sunshine is one of my favorites. It is one of my husband's favorite
Okay.
K-dramas also because of the setting.
And beautiful hanbok.
Yes, the costumes, the production design, very well done, very well made. Also K-film, and congratulations to Korea. 2 major awards at the recently concluded Cannes Film Festival. Song Kang-ho for Best Actor, and director Park Chan-wook, who happens to be one of my favorite.
Your favorite?
Directors for Old Boy and Vengeance trilogy. I've seen many of his films. So he is really a master of the cinematic art. He truly deserves this recognition. The K-drama, K-beauty is also popular in the Philippines. So K-beauty products. And of course, Hansik, Korean food, is also very popular. And there are quite a number of Korean coffee shops which are also in the Philippines now.
Okay.
And K-food, like Korean chicken. Of course, personally, I associate Korea with maybe some of these things, but also with some cultural things which are very Korean, like celadon.
Celadon, yes.
Celadon, you know, the ceramic arts. I find that very distinctively Korean. The hanbok of course, and of course the skyline of Seoul, the skyscrapers, and increasingly I think the digital content, you know, animation. Associated with Korea, webtoons, for example, becoming very, very popular worldwide.
Now Korea is exporting a lot of webtoons also.
Yes, also, and you have major companies like Naver, which are becoming more international now.
Yes. 한국하고 필리핀이 작년에 FTA를 체결했잖아요. 그래서 두 나라 간에 굉장히 교류가 많지만 특히 어떤 분야가 더욱더 활발하게 교류가 되었으면 희망하는 분야 또는 지금 현재 교류되고 있는 분야 대사님의 의견을 좀 알려주시면 감사하겠습니다. 네.
Yes, well, Korea and the Philippines have had a very active bilateral economic relations through the years, but with the conclusion of the free trade agreement, for the negotiations for the free trade agreement last October, and now everything is being finalized, and hopefully it will be implemented already this year. There are many areas of cooperation which we continue to do in the electronics and the vehicle industry, for example.
In
the vehicle industry, of course, for the Philippines in the fresh fruit and vegetable sector. But the beauty of the free trade agreement, the new FTA, you know, the real value is that it is what I call a next generation or a very forward-looking FTA because we've included new areas of cooperation which are very important for the Philippines and Korea. I'm referring to public health cooperation, so life-saving devices, vaccine development, in biopharmaceutical industry, also, of course, the green economy, because climate change and the environment are common concerns between our two countries. E-mobility, the e-vehicle industry, which also falls within the green economy, innovation, digitalization, smart farming. The FTA provides a very good platform for the further growth of our engagement in these areas.
대사님, 가만히 보니까 정말 너무나 많은 한국 사람이 필리핀에 가고 살고 있고요. 또 굉장히 많은 필리핀 사람들이 한국에 와서 살고 있는데 양국 국민들 간의 교류라든가 어떤 양국 간의 관계가 굉장히 또 오래된 것 같거든요.
Well, you know, actually we are already preparing, talking about the long historic friendship and relationship between the Philippines and Korea. We are already preparing to mark the 75th anniversary of Philippines-Korea diplomatic relations in 2024. It is true, yes, there have been many people-to-people exchanges through the years. The Philippines was one of the first countries to recognize Korea, the Republic of Korea. There are about 47,000 Filipinos currently residing and working in Korea, and I think about 80,000 or more Koreans in the Philippines. So we look forward to more exchanges. And across many fields, in the academic field, in the cultural field, the knowledge industries also, very important. Of course, in business, in commerce, and in our diplomatic, bilateral, political and security relations.
대사님이 너무나 이제 많은 업무를 하면서 바쁘시겠지만 그래도 취미 활동을 좀 하실 수 있었으면 저는 좋겠고요. 시간을 좀 내서요.
Here in Korea, whenever I have free time on weekends, I try to walk a little. I like how there is a walking and a hiking culture in Korea.
Yes.
Although at first it was difficult for me to hike. You know? But the Koreans, they walk so fast. Professional walkers, and I'm okay. 잠깐만요.
천천히 가세요.
I read a lot. And of course I watch films and dramas. I like to listen to classical music. And also jazz music. And during the pandemic, during the times when there were lockdowns and we had to do work at home, especially in Europe. I was in Europe at that time. I started doing watercolor painting. So with the summer fast approaching, hopefully I will have time to revisit and practice and do a little bit more watercolors.
한국말 이렇게 좀 하시고 그래서 정말 너무 저도 뿌듯하고 그런데요. 혹시 좋아하는 그 한국어 표현이 있으시면 한번 얘기 좀 해주세요. 네.
With my limited Korean, maybe 보고 싶어.
보고 싶어.
보고 싶어.
남편.
남편. 보고 싶어. I just think every time I visit a new place in Korea,
네.
or I meet
new friends,
new Korean friends, it always reminds me of that phrase that I will miss this place, I will miss Korean friends, and I hope to see you again. I hope to visit this place again, and I hope to see and speak with Korean people I've met again. So 보고 싶어.
보고 싶어요.
보고 싶어요. 보고 싶어요. And also maybe 아이고.
네, 오늘은요 우리 필리핀 대사님하고 정말 필리핀하고 한국에 대해서 너무 많은 얘기를 나눴고요. 또 대사님이 한국에 대해서 너무 잘 알고 계시고 또 대사님의 그 열정이 한국을 이해하는데 큰 도움이 되는 것 같아서 너무너무 좋습니다. 그리고 오늘 이렇게 바쁘신데도요 저희와 함께 시간을 내주셔서 너무 감사드리고요. 우리 곧 또 다음에 만나요. 네, see you soon.
See you soon.
아비안토.